Hello, class, and welcome to this first Spanish class. And well, I know that we have in the previous two classes, but that was just an introduction, just a taste about how is the dynamic about these classes. Today we are going to have a more visual class, and we are going to going back to the basics. You are going to learn a lot of things, the pronunciation and some things that probably you know, but it's really important to go to the basics and understand a little bit more, and in that way you are going to learn in easy way the Spanish. So I hope that you enjoy this beautiful, wonderful class. I'll be preparing a lot of material that is going to help you to understand a little bit more how the words in Spanish works and make that comparison between each another with the English. So let's get started, okay? So we are going to start, for example, with this, the vowels. I know that you probably know about this, but it is important to understand the pronunciation from someone that really speaks Spanish, and also when you understand the basics, that is going to make everything a little bit easy, even if you already know. Because basically, when you try to understand English, sometimes you teachers doesn't have a lot of patience, and well, I have a huge, incredible patience, and I'm going to give you this beautiful class the best way possible. So, as I say, we have here the vowels: A, E, I, O, U. You already know the pronunciation of each one of this, but you are going to learn the right pronunciation in Spanish. So let's get started. The first, obviously, and I know that we have also the consonants, but we are going to take or go into the consonants in a future class and explain a little deeper some concepts. So just relax and learn. So the first vowel is the letter A. How is the pronunciation in Spanish? It's pretty easy. It's A. Just that. A. You don't have to make a lot of effort. A. And I put here some words that have the same meaning in English and Spanish. So basically, A is A in Spanish. So Spanish is a airplane. Everyone know what is an airplane. But how is the translator airplane in Spanish, and what is the pronunciation? Well, airplane in Spanish is avión. Avión. And maybe you can see there some accent, some tick. We're going to talk about that later to make you understand what is the importance about that symbol, the accent, the tick, okay? So A, airplane, avión, that simple. So let's move forward with the second one. And in this case is E. E in Spanish is E. E is E. E is E in Spanish. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, okay? So, a word that have the same meaning in Spanish, in English. Explain. How is explain in Spanish? Well, you can see there how you can write and the words and every letter in that word. So explain in Spanish is explicar. So I'm going to explain this. Voy a explicar esto. The letter E is in Spanish E. Explain, explicar. Okay, let's move forward with the next letter. I. For example, iPhone, and there are a lot of many other words. Important. That is in English, obviously. So what is the translator important in Spanish and what is the right pronunciation? Well, importante. And the pronunciation of I, E, I, in Spanish is E. I, E. Important, importante. Important, importante. As you can see, it's pretty simple. And maybe you say, well, it's simple and easy for you because you already know. But, well, you have to take patience and the practice. Everything can be done with practice, okay? So we just start with a simple class with the vowels. Let's move toward with the next letter or vowel is the O. How is O in Spanish? O. Just that. O is O. O. Just like the expression O. 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 Obstacle. Everyone know what is an obstacle and what is the pronunciation and translate that word in Spanish? Obstáculo. Obstacle. Obstáculo. Obstacle. Obstacle. So can you see, well, some words could be a little bit more difficult, and I know that you maybe say, well, what is that as in there and what is there? Take it easy, boy, take it easy, girl. We're going step by step. Today you don't have to worry about that, just the basics, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So let's go with the last vowel. It's the U. Okay, how is the pronunciation U in Spanish? U. U is U. I know that in English U can use as U, but in Spanish U is just U. Unicorn is that mythological animal. So unicorn in Spanish is unicornio. Unicorn, unicornio, unicornio. And maybe the pronunciation is a little bit hard in Spanish because when you say unicorn and unicornio, it could be difficult because maybe someone say unicornio, unicornio, unicornio. Don't worry, with practice you get it. Unicorn, and it's gonna be unicornio, unicornio. Okay, I try to make the most basically don't put any accent on the pronunciation, so that's going to be a little bit easier for you. So we will see later in another class the consonants. Today we are going to talk about just the vowels. And maybe if you know what I'm going to explain. Basically, when you take these 5 vowels and when you mix, it's the same in English. A consonant with a vowel, you start and build different words. It's the same in Spanish. The difference is that, obviously, it's different, and obviously, we have that accent, that tick, that we are going to explain a little bit more in a couple of minutes, okay? So let's go with something that is pretty simple and easy. This is a resume of maybe something that you look at the high school, maybe university, okay? The numbers is something simple when you start to understand how is the pronunciation and all those kind of stuff. So the first is the number 0. In Spanish is cero, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and as you can see, it is almost the same letters, just at the beginning change. So the number 1, uno. The number 1. What is the pronunciation of 1? Uno. Is simple. And when you understand these basics, you can make easily pronunciation in the other numbers. For example, 21, 21, 20, 20, 1, uno. Simple, just like that. And what do you remember? Well, maybe the zero. Do you remember some movie, Zero Dark Knight? I don't remember pretty well the movie. Well, maybe you remember. I remember Dua Lipa with this number. Be the one, ser el primero. Be the one. Be, ser, di, el, uno. One. Be the one. Be, ser, de, el, one. Uno. Be the one. Be the one. Dua Lipa. And with the number 2, what do you remember? 2.5 Men, maybe the series 2.5 Men. That was on a pretty famous series. 2.5 Men. Dos hombres y medio. 2.5 Men in Spanish is dos hombres y medio. Dos hombres en medio, something like that. You can find a more close translate. Okay, let's move forward with the number 3. The number 3, the pronunciation, it is tres. So the number 3, the pronunciation, it is tres. Can you, I don't know, I don't remember just right now something related to number 3 in a movie or something like that. Three Kings. I remember a movie about 3 kings with famous actors. I don't remember their names, but that is a movie. So the number 3 in Spanish, as you maybe know, is tres. 3, tres. Maybe you say tres. Tres. With practice, you are going to get it. And then the 4, the number 4. What is the pronunciation in Spanish? Cuatro. 4. Cuatro. I remember the 4 seasons of the world: winter, summer, spring, well, all those seasons. I don't remember exactly a movie with the number 4. But I remember the seasons of the water. As you probably know, not all the countries in the world have the 4 seasons. When there are countries close to the equator line, in the middle of the earth, those countries usually doesn't have those 4 seasons. 4 estaciones. So let's move forward with the 5. What is the pronunciation of 5 in Spanish? Cinco. 5. Cinco. And as you can see, maybe in these numbers, you can see how the mix between vowels and consonants. The C with the I is C. And even with S, it is with C or with S. With the vowel I, it is C. Okay? But with another vowel, for example, the O, could be C-O. In Spanish, it's co. But with S, it's so. So it is something that doesn't work with all the vowels. But well, 5. I don't remember a movie with the number 5. You can let me know in the comments. Class, what movie do you remember with the number 5? 5 minutes ago, I was talking about something different. Well, cinco. Let's move forward with the next number. 6. Seis. The number 6. Seis. 6. Seis. It's just about practice. 6. I don't remember a movie or something related to 6. Maybe there are a lot. But well, I don't remember just right now. As you can see, in some numbers, sometimes we use in Spanish the same number of letters and others no, or are totally different. For example, here, but this is pretty similar, another no. But well, that is something that usually happens with all languages. So let's move forward with one of the favorite numbers of everyone, the number 7. The pronunciation of 7 in Spanish is siete. 7, siete. Maybe you pronounce siete, 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 siete. But with practice, you will get it to say siete. 7, siete. I remember that with 7, there is a movie, 7, with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. A really good movie. And there are anime series, 7 Deadly Sins. 7 Deadly Sins. In Spanish is Siete Pecados Capitales. Siete Pecados Capitales, 7 Deadly Sins. Okay? Well, that is more complex. So we are not going to go into the complexity because this is a basic class. So let's go with the next number, 8. Ocho. 8. Ocho. There is a movie from Tarantino. I don't remember pretty well the director. I'm pretty sure that is Tarantino. It's The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight in Spanish is Los Ocho Más Odiados. The Hateful Eight. Los Ocho Más Odiados. 8, ocho. I'm talking about many other things different from the numbers, but it's just to train your ear with Spanish, and that makes you easily in the future. 9, nueve, 9, nueve. So the number 9 in Spanish is nueve. Okay. Something with the number 9. I don't remember nothing related to 9. Oh, yes, 9 Inch Nails, the band, the band song, the band music. 9 Inch Nails is a band. 9 Inch Nails. In Spanish is clavos de 9 pulgadas. 9 Inch Nails, clavos de 9 pulgadas. The number 9, nueve. Let's go with almost finished on this list. Number 10, 10, 10. Usually this could be used as a when you have a teacher and they give you a qualification for your test, for the exam. Could be between from 0 to 10 or maybe from 0 to 5. When you go to some marketplaces like Amazon, you can qualify up to 5. But in some countries, the qualification from tests and exams for students could be between 0 and the number 10. Del número 10. El number número 10. 10. I don't remember something else related to number 10. But this, when I see this number, I remember a series that has the last season during this week, Stranger Things. You remember one of the main characters, 11. And what is the pronunciation of 11 in Spanish? 11. So the previous 10, 10. 11 remind me the series Stranger Things from Netflix. 11. 11. 11. What does it mean, stranger, or how can you translate Stranger Things in Spanish? Stranger, extraño. Things, cosas. the thing is that Stranger Things, when you translate into Spanish, you put things at the beginning and stranger at the end. So basically it is Stranger Things, and you put things at the beginning, cosas, and stranger at the end, extrañas, cosas extrañas. So when you maybe listen to some kind of words just like this, Stranger Things, maybe you see that the translate is cosas extrañas. That doesn't mean that the stranger is cosas. No. Sometimes it is because we change the position of the words to make the right grammar in Spanish. So stranger, it is in Spanish extraño o extrañas, and thing in Spanish is Stranger Things, cosas. So we change the order of the words, and you will have the right. Stranger Things in Spanish is cosas extrañas, cosas extrañas. Okay, so let's move forward with the number 12, 12. The 12 Angry Men. It is a movie from 60s, I don't remember, 50s. 12 Angry Men. 12. 12. 12 in Spanish is 12. Okay. It's pretty simple. It is not complicated, but with practice you will get it. Almost everything. Well, everything. We go with, for example, 100 or 100. 100. If we just say 100, it is 100. We understand that 100 or 100 is the same. In Spanish is 100. But for example, when you go, for example, to a movie that is 300, the movie 300 in Spanish is 300. I don't have the image here, but it's usually when you go, for example, 100, 200, 300, 400. In Spanish is 100, 200, 300, 400. For example, 100, 100. 300, the movie, 300, 300. And basically you add to the 100, the plural from 100 is, in this case, it is TOS, so it's 300, 300, 100. The TOS give the plural 200, because you will figure out that when you understand with 400 and other numbers. So 100, 100. 1000. 1000 is something that we usually understand in English. When you start to learn English, is 100,000, a million, something like that. So it's 1000 or just 1000 in Spanish is 1000. 1000 or 1000 is 1000 in Spanish. It's something that you are going to 2000, 2000, 3000, 3000, 4000, 4000. In this case, you don't add more letters at the end to the meal. It's different from, and that could create something weird, but no worry. You will understand that, because when we start to learn English, we are confused about some things, and it's the same when you start to learn Spanish. And I know that English could be a little bit more difficult than English, but don't worry. With practice, you are going to understand this more, something automatic. You don't have to think about that. It's the way that I learn languages, okay? 1 million. $1 million. $1 million, but just 1 million. It is un millón. 1 million, un millón. So 1 million in Spanish is un millón. Okay? So you will learning and training your ear that make you easily when you maybe try to speak. I don't know, maybe you travel through Spain and you try to understand the locals about what is the pronunciation and try to understand a conversation. This is pretty helpful for that future travel. Or maybe you already traveled to Spain, you say, well, the next time I'm going to understand a little bit more. And now we are going to move forward with words in basically Spanish and English, and we are going to basically and make this even more easily for you. Something that you have to keep in mind when you basically try to learn Spanish is that specific accent that we talk about in the first vowel, the airplane and avión, that take that accent in some vowels is pretty huge important that you keep in mind, because for example when you say in English papa, it is father, it is dad. So all we know that papa, and actually 11 say papa. A lot of people say papa, dad, father. Well, I know that a father is more formal, but well, whatever. The thing is that accent over the letter A change the meaning of the word. So papa is different from papa because that keep an accent, and when you have an accent in a specific word, that change totally the meaning of that word. So for example, if you are in Spanish and you say papa without accent and papa or papa with accent are totally different. Papa without accent, it is potato, and papa with accent is dad, papa, or dad, father. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, but it is just to explain that symbol over the letter at the beginning with the first word, avión, airplane, is something that you will understand with the time. And believe me or no, there are a lot of people in Spanish that don't use that accent. When there are people that understand the huge difference with one word and another, obviously you are going to understand the pen of the context, because if you are going to talk that you go to travel with your dad to Japan or something, you are going obviously to understand that you don't travel with a potato, you travel with your dad. And the context helps you to understand the word. And some people know, a lot of people in Spanish from Spain, Mexico, well, in all countries that you used to watch a lot of people speak Spanish, you will find that there are a lot of people that don't use that accent. And when there are people that know that they make their mistakes, that make that you look, well, now you someone that their first language it is Spanish, and that person that, I don't know, it has to know, suppose that have to know Spanish, don't use that accent. You say, well, that is, how do you say the word? Well, this is going to sound rude, but it is a stupid person. Some person that is Spanish from Latin America, Spain, and don't use the accent when should be or have to, they are a stupid person. And we are here to explain because it's really important for you to know that it's pretty sure that when you talk some word in the context, you will understand what is papa or papa. But it is just parentheses to keep in mind about the importance about the accent and the tick in Spanish for different words because change totally the meaning. Obviously, as I say, depends of the context, you will understand it is with or without accent, but it's pretty important that you keep in mind, okay? So now that you have this a little bit more complex level of Spanish, we're going to make this even more easy for you. I bring you some, well, basically that is papa, but the or and papa without accent could be also mean pope, okay? To keep in mind. But let's make this even more easy for you. These are words that basically are the same, exactly the same in Spanish and in English. In English and Spanish. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is the pronunciation. Animal. In Spanish, animal is animal. 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 In Spanish, animal. And it is exactly the same as you can see. So basically, it is something that is going to make this class even more easy. And you are going to say, oh, this is basically incredible easy. But well, error. Error in Spanish is error. You have a little bit more accent over the two R's. So error, 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 error. Error in Spanish, the pronunciation is error. Okay? Hotel or hotel, depends of where you are. Hotel, whatever that you want to say, the word depends of if you are in UK or United States. The pronunciation of hotel or hotel in Spanish is hotel. Hotel, hotel, hotel. It's pretty much similar, so it is not so much complicated. Hotel, 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 hotel. Okay? And this is a little bit more complicated, the pronunciation. Idea is the same meaning, is the same words, letters exactly. Idea. In Spanish, idea. So, idea, I have some idea. Tengo una idea. I have some idea. Tengo una idea. So, idea in Spanish, the pronunciation is idea. Okay? It's a little bit more complicated, but you will get it. The listening. Idea. Legal. I have a legal. I have something legal or related. Legal in Spanish is legal. 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 It's no so similar like others, but legal. Legal. You will understand with the time every time that you listen to me speak in Spanish. Legal. Legal. Normal. Normal is pretty much similar in Spanish. Normal. 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 As you can see, maybe you say, well, it's almost the same. And yes, it's pretty almost. It is because when we listen in English, we know that it's in English. And when we listen in Spanish, we know that it's in Spanish. Maybe you know and you can listen in the same. When you say something that is pretty normal, eso es muy normal. That is pretty normal. Eso es muy normal. 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 Total. We use a lot of these words in English, or I don't have a huge vocabulary in English, so 10 man is stupid. Total. 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 In Spanish, the pronunciation is total. The letter T had more accent. Total. Total. It's soft, but in Spanish it's more strong. Total. 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 You see, even if you say total, some people is going to understand you. Social. Social. Social media. Redes sociales. Social media. Redes sociales. As you can see, is the same words, the same letters, and in some of the words there are almost exactly the same pronunciation with some change. Social. Social. The thing is that in English is a little bit soft, social, but in Spanish it is social. 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 Could be difficult at the beginning because when I tried to learn English, there are some words that basically, for me at the beginning, I'll listen in exactly the same pronunciation, and that could be something that happens even not only in Spanish, in many other languages. Well, let's move forward with the last word for this list. Final. This is the final. This is the final countdown. I remember that song. Do you remember? I don't remember which band or singer it is. The song, the final countdown. But final in Spanish is final. 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 The thing is, this is a neutral accent that I try to give you this class, but you have to keep in mind that there are some people, even for us, that is really hard to understand because they have a really bad and a weird pronunciation. And I know that is the same in English because, for example, in United Kingdom and UK, there are a weird pronunciation with different parts that even people from the United States and other parts doesn't understand. It is the same in Spanish. Maybe you go into Latin America or Spain and maybe you listening someone that is speaking in Spanish and you say, what was that? Don't worry, it's the same in Spanish. Final, final. So the pronunciation of the word final in Spanish, it is final. Okay. Well, that was now the final. That was now the last word. Well, capital. Capital. Capital letters. The capital of the country. Well, you know the meaning of that. But in Spanish, the pronunciation of capital, it is capital. Capital. So, as you can see, in English, the pronunciation is soft, capital, capital. And in Spanish, some consonants and sometimes some vowels could be a strong pronunciation and some accent. So the capital, la capital. The capital of the United States is Washington, D.C. La capital de Estados Unidos es Washington, D.C. Capital, 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 capital. capital, capital. Okay. And we have the last three words for this wonderful class. So, what is the thing? In this case, it is something totally different. So basically, with these previous words, it's the same letters, it's the same meaning, and sometimes it's pretty similar pronunciation. But with this, it's different, okay? So, pie, you know what is the meaning of pie in English, but in Spanish, it's something totally different. So, pie, it is no pie in Spanish. You pronounce pie in Spanish is pie. And they are totally different. Pie, pie. Pie, pie. And the meaning is totally different. What does it mean pie or pie in Spanish? Means this. Okay? So basically, pie in English is a pie. But in Spanish, if you use the same word and you say pie, it is different pronunciation. Is pie. And that meaning is a food, okay? It's totally different. So let's move forward with the second one. Pan. Pan, it is almost the same pronunciation in Spanish. Pan, pan, but are totally different. Pan from pan. Pan is something that you use to cook different meals, food, whatever. But pan is a meal, okay? And what does it mean, pan? Bread. It is crazy, but it is curious. It's something that I liked about the difference in languages. So pan and pan are totally different, okay? It's something that you have to keep in mind. And not only with these words, there are a lot of other different words that with practice you are going to understand the difference between each another, okay? So let's move forward with the last word for this class, and that is dice. Dice, in Spanish the pronunciation is dice. Dice, dice. But as the previous two words are totally different meaning. Can you guess what is the meaning, or what does it mean dice in Spanish? Dice in Spanish is something like say. Okay, so dice is dice, and that basically is says. She says, he says, that's basically say. So dice in Spanish is dice and is says. I know that this could create some confusion, but there are some of the important words that you have to keep in mind if you want to improve your Spanish skills. Maybe if you want to travel to some beautiful country in Latin America or even in Spain, this kind of topics and things is going to help you with your language. And well, those were some of the words that I want to teach you today. We have a pretty simple class in Spanish. I don't want to complicate your life. You want to take it easy, make things in a way that you will be use this in your future. Maybe if you, as I said before, going to Latin America country or even Spain, this is going to be a lot of useful. But people even from Latin America and many other countries, we used to help people, and you can use other tools. But even with that, learn and try to understand other language is going to help your brain. It's basically just like try to make a Sudoku, something like that. So, well, class, that was the first official Spanish class. I hope that you really enjoyed this beautiful, wonderful class. And well, if you really like this class, you can let me know in the comments below, and I guarantee that I'm going to increase the levels, and you can go from the basics up to the advanced. And with the time and more practice and more tips that I can bring to these videos, I can teach you almost everything from the Spanish. So basically you can use these relax videos to relieve stress, to feel more comfortable, confused, and with the time when you realize, you say, well, I understand a little bit more the Spanish, and that will be great, because maybe you haven't in the United States or in your country someone that is from Latin America, and when that person is speaking Spanish, you say, what the hell they say? Don't worry, this class is going to help you with that. So if you saw the video until this moment, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And as I said before, you can let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this interactive class? I'm going to build incredible graphics to make this easily to understand. And you don't have to stress, because this is just the basics, it's the easy, it's just a little introduction, more visual than the two previous classes that we already had. So thank you so much, and see you in the next class. Bye bye.